Why is there conflict between you, your husband, your wife, your neighbor, and fellow? Why? In that relationship, thought plays a great part. Right? Thought. Both sexually and in other ways. I won't go into all the details of it because it's very simple. Thought plays a great part in our intimate relationship. Thought creates the image of the man or the woman, and the relationship is between these two images. Are you following all this? Let's leave. Go. So, actual relationship doesn't exist. It exists between these two images which thought has created. So, thought may be responsible for the conflict. I wonder if you see all this. So, is it possible not to create the image? That is seeing, contact, sensation, call, the image you have built, saying, you sitting in that car, putting your hand on the steering wheel and driving off. It's the same thing as in our personal relationship, which is the image you have built about her or him. It may take 1 minute to create that image. Or you have accumulated a series of images. And she also has created a series of images. So, thought is the origin of conflict. I wonder if you see this. And at least few of us know. Let's go together. Then the problem arises. How is one to put an end to this movement of creating images all the time? You follow? Is that at all possible? Because we live by images. The images of the past, the remembrance of incidents, the pleasant, unpleasant, all the rest of it. This is our life. And if thought is the origin of this disorder in our relationship, then what place has thought at all? You understand? I wonder if you understand what I'm talking about. See? You see this. You see very clearly, at least verbally, intellectually, that thought begins all the mess in our relationship. Then the question that arises, how am I to stop thought? Which is a totally wrong question. I wonder if you see that. Because you who want to stop thought, you are created by thought. I wonder if you see, right? So, thought has divided itself as the controller and the controlled. Then you ask the question, how am I to control thought? So we are saying that's a wrong question. That question indicates that you haven't grasped the whole movement of thought. That thought has broken itself up as the thinker and the thought, the controller and the control. So, do we realize this fact that the controller is the control? Huh? So what takes place? When somebody, I see very clearly, if one sees it, very clearly, that thought is the root of this disorder. Because thought in itself is utterly limited. It can imagine it's limited, but in fact it's limited. It can conceive theoretically what is time, what's beyond time. I've got it out, but it has no value. What value is our daily life? So, the question when you say, how am I to stop thought, is a wrong question, because thought is the controller and the controlled. Right? Does one see this obvious fact? Or you make an abstraction of it as an idea and say, how am I to carry out that idea? Which means you haven't grasped the full significance of this fact. Right? When you make an abstraction, you are dealing with a non-fact. What is fact is the conflict which thought has created, the disorder. So can you, do you actually perceive that the thinker is the root of this? You have created the image between you and so on. And that image is not actual. It's a material structure created by thought which acts as a barrier. Mirtakinex. And therefore, there was no love. Thought is not love. We'll go into that sometime. So the question is, does your mind, your brain, actually perceive the fact that thought is responsible for our confusion, disorder? When you perceive the fact, what takes place? That's what I want to know. Let's move from there. You understand? When you see danger, physical danger, there is instant action. Unless you're neurotic or drugged or drunk or whatever it is. If you see something dangerous, there is immediate response. Now, why does your brain not see the danger that thought creates disorder. The danger of disorder. You're following what? Why? There, your brain is tremendously active. When you see a danger, the adrenaline, the whole blood rate, everything responsive. There, your life is threatened. Here also your life is threatened, which is living in disorder is a great threat, great danger to human beings. Why doesn't the brain equally see instantly the danger of this as it sees the other? You follow my question? Why? Come on, sirs. Why do we not see to live in disorder is the greatest danger? Is it because we are used to disorder? Please don't accept what the speaker is saying. We are accustomed to disorder. We put up with the disorder. We haven't the energy to create all. Which all means what? Please go into your brain, look at it, please. Laziness, indifference, lack of aesthetic appreciation of that which is beautiful. Is it the brain, having accepted disorder, disregards it, is indifferent to it, and so therefore, what happens to the brain that has created disorder, thought which has created disorder, and accepts it? What happens to the brain? Come on, sirs. It becomes naturally very dull. When you accept anything, it must be, right? When you accept your relationship with others, which is essentially conflict, when you accept it, you have accepted something which is disordered, unaesthetic, immoral. So what happens? Your life becomes mediocre, dull, and sit there and just listen to some rubbish. So, listening to all this, is there order now in your life? Not tomorrow, immediately. Because you see the danger. I wonder if you see this. You understand what? You act instantly to this danger, physical danger. And here you don't act because, for various reasons. A brain that's awake, alert, sees the danger, disorder. Which means what? The brain, with its thought, has created this disorder. So the brain sees the danger of it, and the brain acts because it must have security, safety. You understand all this? Is your brain active in that sense, which is never accepting anything. Therefore, question asked, look, you seem to object even to sitting quietly every day to observe the movement of thought. Is this, by your definition, a practice, a method, and therefore without value? I would like to trade this is a question. We mean by question, the root meaning of that word is to seek, derived from Latin, Greek, and also from Sanskrit. To seek. Now the question asks, what is wrong? Sitting quietly every morning for 20 minutes, afternoon another 20 minutes, and perhaps another 20 minutes in the evening, or longer. What's wrong with it? I do not know if you have heard of that ridiculous meditation that's practiced by those who TM, have you heard of all that? Transcendental meditation. The word transcendental is a good word, but it's been ruined. They've learned that by sitting quietly, you can relax. You can observe, if you wish, your thinking, your reactions, your responses, and your reflexes, and so on, so on. Now, behind all these so-called meditation, what is the motive? You understand my question? What is the motive of all those people who sit quietly? I don't know why they sit quietly. Sitting quietly by themselves or together or in a group. What is the motive behind the desire to sit quietly for half an hour every day and so on and so on? What is the motive? Isn't that important to inquire before you sit quietly for 20 minutes a day or half an hour a day or whatever you do? Isn't it important to find out why you want to do this? Is it because somebody has told you that if you sit quietly, you will have parapsychological experiences, that you will attain some kind of illusory, I mustn't use the word illusory, that some kind of peace, some kind of understanding, some kind of enlightenment, some kind of power. And we, rather gullible, pay thousands of dollars or francs or pounds to receive instructions and a mantra so that we can repeat those. I know some people who have spent thousands and thousands of dollars to pay the man who will give you something in return, especially a Sanskrit word that's much more romantic than saying Coca-Cola. And you repeat. You have paid something and you have received something in return. And what is the motive behind it? If you go into it, ask yourself why you are doing this. Is it for a reward? Not financial reward, but a psychological reward. Is it that by sitting quietly, you are paid some kind of superconsciousness? Or is it that you want that which has been promised by your instructor? So isn't it important, before we plunge into all this kind of research, to find out what is your motive, what is it you want? Isn't it important? But we see, we don't do that. We are so eager and gullible that somebody promises you something and you want it. Now if you examine the motive, it is a desire to achieve something. Like a businessman, his desire is to earn a lot of money. That's his urge. Here, the psychological urge is to have something that you think the other man, a guru or an instructor, whatever, promises.
Hold up, little bitch.
You don't question what he promises. You don't doubt what he promises. You don't say, do you mean? Do you meditate? You know that do?
Bitch, where?
But they say, no, I'm too old for that kind of stuff. I've done it. You know, possible. But if you question the man who is offering you something, is it worthwhile?
What's up with them beats?
Is it true? Who are you to tell me what to do? When you find that sitting quietly with not understanding your motive leads to all kinds of illusory psychological trouble. And the speaker has met dozens and dozens and dozens of such people, and they are mentally become gradually unbalanced, slightly neurotic, and something psychologically goes wrong. Don't accept my word for all this. You can see it in your own faces if you're doing it. So, if that is the intention of sitting quietly, then it is work. Naturally. But motive means move. Power. The power to move. And when you're walking quietly by yourself or with somebody, you can watch the trees, the birds, and the roads, and the mountains, and the leaves, sunshine, and the leaves, and so on and so on. And in the very watching of all that, you're also watching yourself. You're striving, making tremendous efforts to achieve something. I know those of you who are committed to all this, to the other kind of meditation, find it awfully hard to throw it off. But your mind is already conditioned. You have practiced this thing for several years, and you're stuck. And somebody comes along and says, what nonsense are these things? And perhaps at a rare moment you become rational. You say, yes, perhaps this is wrong. Then that begins the trouble. Conflict between what you have found for yourself to be wrong and what you have been practicing for the last 5, 10, 3 years. And this struggle is called progress. Spiritual progress. You understand all this? Pursuing one thought or another. One sensory responses to another set of series of responses. So the mind, the brain is always chattering, consciously or unconsciously. Right? This is the observe your own mind. This is what is happening. So, you want to stop that chattering, then you try to learn concentration, forcing the mind to stop chattering, and so concentrate again. This is what we all do. Chattering, talking endlessly about life. Now, if you want to observe something, trees, flowers, the lines of the mountain, you have to look. You have to be quiet. But you see, we are not interested in the mountains, or the beauty of the hills and the valleys and the water. We want to get somewhere, achieve something spiritual, essential, when we are young. But we're dissatisfied with the society as it is, with all the corruption that goes on. But we don't mind being corrupted spiritually. Right? So it's not possible. Is it not possible to be quiet, natural? Look at a person, or to listen to a song, or to listen to what somebody is saying, without resistance, without saying, I must change, I must do this, I must not do that. Just to be quiet. And apparently that's most difficult. So we practice systems to be quiet. You see the fallacy of it? To practice a method, a system, a regular, everyday routine, but then you think the mind will at last be quiet. But it will never be quiet. It will be mechanical. It will become set in a pattern. It will become dull, insensitive. And so, but you don't see all that, but you want to get something. An initiation. So type. So, if you listen, now you are listening, if you listen quietly, not things right or wrong, I am committed to this, how am I to give it up, I promise not to give it up, and this, that, the other thing. But to listen what is being said, without resistance. But I'm not, the speaker is not saying something irrational, something stupid or exotic. He's just pointing out that, and if you can listen to that, what he's pointing out, which is your own discovery of what you are doing, then your mind, in the very process of investigation, will become quiet. You understand it? As a lot of logic, but to serious scientists, and if you have serious, not those who are employed by the government, who are trying to compete with another side, who are really scientists, that is, to discover something totally new, to discover the cause of anything, to go beyond the inquiry of mere matter. Such those scientists very much of mind while they are observing and investigating. So, can we, ordinary people, with all our troubles and torments, be quiet and listen to all the thumpings of our own movement? But the cellular appears most different. It's not. If you are interested in something, you are naturally attentive. But which I am born with myself, so that it is possible to sit or stand or walk quietly without any prompting from another, without any reward and having extraordinary super-physical sensory experience. Begin on this at the most rational level of thought. You can go very far. My behavior indicates that I'm afraid. But the actual perception here is a mystery. How do I reach and be with this deep-rooted but unconscious emotion? My behavior indicates that I'm afraid. Yet the actual perception here is a mystery. How do I reach and be with this deep-rooted seated but unconscious emotion? Existed with man. And man has lived with it, both consciously or hidden deep down, its roots very, very deep. And either we have escaped from it through logic, through analysis, through any form of entertainment that helps us to avoid coming directly into contact with it and holding it, or we have suppressed it. Right? We have to do this. Or we neglect it. Say what? We have lived with fear for a million years, so what does it matter now? And one knows the consequences of fear. Physical shrinkage, a tendency to be a hypocritical resistance, an avoidance of the fact that one is really afraid. So if one really profoundly wants to be free from that reaction called fear, one has to go to the very root of it. There is biological fears. Body, the organism, which must protect itself, and the fear of disease, old age, death, and the fears of past memories. So fear is again a common ground upon which all human beings stand. So, either we deal with it superficially or inquire into it very, very deeply. What is the root of fear? I know, one knows various forms of fear. Death, old age, fear of tomorrow, fear of uncertainty, fear of insecurity, fear of not being loved, or loved and not receiving that love, fear of loneliness, fear of loss, fear of not having anybody to depend on, and so on. There are various forms of fear. The fear of the dark, the fear of light. Do we deal with the outward forms of fear? That is, I'm afraid of my wife, or I'm afraid of a bully. A bully, bullying all the time, you lie, you do all kinds of things. And there is the fear of that constant pressure of an aggressive, slightly demented person. So, do we want to deal with fear superficially, which is intellectually, verbally, or do we want to go into it very, very, very deeply? Please, this is a serious question which you must answer for yourself. If you want to deal with it superficially, that is endless. It's like a tree. The moment you cut down one branch or one twig of it, there is another one rising. It's perpetual flowering of fear. Or you go into it observing its very nature, structure, how it comes into being. When we want to deal with it deeply, go to the very root of it. What is the root of fear? Please, I'm not telling you, the speaker is not pointing out, we are together investigating into a tremendous, complicated problem which has crippled humanity. And out of fear we've done all kinds of things, invented all the gods on earth. If there is absolutely no psychological fear, then you are beyond all gods. So what is basically the root of fear? Is it time and thought? Please, we are investigating. I'm not telling you. I'm questioning. Is it time, the future, or the past? And is it also thought? Thinking about the future, thinking about the past, thinking what might happen, or what has happened. The future is time. The past is time. The past, modifying itself in the present, moves towards tomorrow, the future. The remembrance of an incident which has caused fear, and the future of that incident awakening the new fear. You following all this? Am I talking to myself, or we are meeting each other? So there is horizontal fear and vertical fear. Right? So we're asking, is it time? The past, the present, and the future. I'm afraid of, one is afraid of the present, the instability, the threat of war, the bomb that some country, another great tribal country might put it on this, so on. So one is afraid of the past, the present, and the future. This is a movement, right? It's not something that is static, it's a movement. And so, a movement means time. From here to the village, it requires time to travel, to go to the village. From one point to another point, it means time. So, we are asking if time is one of the factors of fear. Logically, it seems so. Rationally, sanely. And is thought also the root of fear? I think tomorrow might bring me unemployment. I'll be unemployed tomorrow. The thinking about it, while I am employed, thinking about it tomorrow is also the beginning of fear. Right, you're following? Thinking about the past, the incidents, the psychological accidents which has brought about certain forms of fear, thinking about the past, thinking about the future, thinking about the actual moment of life in which there is such tremendous uncertainty. Thought breeds fear, right? You following all this? So time and thought, are they the major factors of fear? And if they are, and as in reality they are, what is one to do? You understand my problem? Were we meeting each other? You have explained this to me, that time and thought is the root of fear. You have gone into it, you have explained it. Not in great detail, but I've captured the meaning of what you have said. Now, then you ask me, is it an idea that you have accepted, the words that you have accepted, or listening what you have said to me. From that listening, I have made an abstraction of it into an idea, and I'm struggling with the idea. Then I ask, how am I to put that idea into action? You see the difference? Vous avez compris? You have understood what I'm saying? Is this clear? No. We have the habit of making abstractions of a fact. Those abstractions become ideals, ideas, concepts, conclusions, all verbal. And then I ask myself, how am I to carry out these ideals, these ideas, these concepts, that time and thought are the root of fear? You understood? I have made an abstraction of what you have told me. Time and thought are the root of fear. And I'm pursuing the idea. How am I to carry out in life? The speaker says, please don't do that. Don't make an abstraction of what you have heard. That time and thought are the root of fear. Don't translate into an idea, but find out the truth of it, the actuality of it. That is, I see that I really am afraid of the past. It is so. Also, I'm afraid the present, because the things are so incredibly destructive around me. And also I'm afraid of tomorrow, the future. The atom bomb, the nuclear bomb, the mugging, the man terrorists and the politicians with their game. That's the present, so also the future. So I realize, I see the fact, not the idea, that time and thought are the root of fear. Next Saturday I'll go into much more in a different way, but this is the root of fear. Now what shall I do? I realize I see the fact. I see the truth of what you have told me. Not romantic, idealistic, all that. That's no meaning. I see the truth, the actual truth of what you have told me. Then the difficulty arises, if you have gone that far. Who is the observer who actually sees the fact? Do you understand all this? Or is this too difficult? Huh? All right. Who is the observer? Says, yes, I see the truth of it. Is the observer different from what he sees? You understand my question? When I say yes, I see the truth of what you have told me, I have already played a trick, which is I see the truth of it. That means I am different from the truth. You following? Right? Is this clear? Wait a minute, let me put it much more simply. When I'm angry, Is that anger different from me? Or at the moment of anger, there is no difference. There is this tremendous reaction. A few seconds later, I say, I have been angry. Therefore, I have divided myself as the me who is being angry. Right? You see this? So, when you have told me the truth, the fact that time and thought are the factors of fear, I listen to it very carefully and I say, yes, I see the truth of it. And the perception of the truth is something out there and me watching it. Follow this? Or there is no observer but only the fact of it. You understand the difference? Are we meeting I observe that tree. In that observation, words spring up. That's an oak tree. And that the very naming of that tree prevents me from actually looking at it. You understood? If I go to a museum and see a picture, a painting by the old masters, I don't like modern painting, so it doesn't matter. And I go there and look. When I compare one master against another master, I'm not looking at the actual painting of a particular master, right? I'm comparing, judging. I'm never observing very closely without any sense of other painters looking. So, when I observe, when I see the truth of what you have told me, there is no division between the observer and the observed. There is only the truth of it, not I see it. And that perception, which is holistic, frees the mind from fear. Completely. Have you got this? Don't look, please, so puzzled. Look, sir. What time is it?
12:30.
Okay. You're not tired? Can you go on with this? It's very important to understand this. I am afraid. Suppose I am afraid, psychologically. I then try to control it. I try to rationalize it. I try to escape from it. I go to somebody to help me to resolve it. So I'm always acting on it. Is that clear? That's what we are all doing. Acting upon it either to dissipate it, or to control it, or to run away from it, or to suppress it. This is what we do, acting upon it. So there is always this conflict, right? Is that clear? The struggle not to be afraid, which is a conflict. Now, can that conflict end? You see, I'm putting the question differently. Can that conflict between me and the fear, me controlling the fear, suppressing and so on, and thereby this division which inevitably brings conflict, can that conflict end? You get the point? That's my question. I say, how can that conflict end? Why does this division between the me, the I, who is trying to suppress, control, dominate fear, why is there this division? Is this division actual? Or is it merely semantic, verbal? Or not being able to solve the problem, thought has divided itself as the me and the fear. You understand? Am I talking to myself or can we go on? Sorry, you probably never thought about all this. So it is important to resolve this conflict because we live in duality. I am this, I should not be that. I should be that. So there is always this duality which brings about conflict, right? Now, I want to find out, no, I won't use that, can this conflict end? Is there, please listen to it, is there an opposite? I am afraid. The opposite is not to be afraid, right? Or have courage. Is there an opposite to fear? Or there is only the ending of fear, not the opposite of fear. And if you see all this. So, is there an ending of fear? The ending being no conflict, right? If I end it through conflict, that means I'll go on, it'll be perpetual. You get this? So can this end? To end something, there must be no me who is trying to end it. Right? If I try to end it, I'm in conflict with it. Right? But is there an observation of this reaction called fear without the past interfering with that observation? The past being the remembrances, the many fears I've had. So the past, can it abstain from looking at the fact without the memory of yesterdays? You haven't understood? Look, sir. If I'm married, I meet my wife every day. Every day. Rather boring. Every day. Listen carefully, please. don't laugh, every day. So I begin to know her. I know how she looks, what her gestures, all the rest of it, the words. So gradually I have built up a knowledge about her. And whenever I look at her, all the knowledge comes out, right? The knowledge is the past, right? Because I have built the knowledge day after day, day after day, day after day, accumulated it through various incidents and so on, so on. So whenever I see her, this knowledge, which is the past, looks at her, right? You're doing this. It's nothing new. Only we are putting it into words. And so this knowledge is the remembrance of things past, meeting the present, and so dividing, right? Physically, of course, my wife is not like me, male and female. But psychologically, I've divided myself. You understand? The remembrance of the accumulated memories, which is knowledge about my wife, has separated me, has separated as the me and her. Got this? The past has brought about this division. Now, similarly, the past remembrances of fears, past remembrance of accidents of fear, the happenings of fear is stored in the brain. And that brain is remembering the past. And so when it present reaction which has been, which comes, you name it immediately as fear and record it as fear. You follow this? Right? Is this clear? No, don't tell me this. Not clear. I can't help it, sorry. I try to put it in 3 or 4 different ways. The past is time. The past is the observer. And so the observer says, yes, that's fear. I know it's fear because I've had it so many times. So, moment it recognizes it's part of the past, right? You see this fact. So can you look at that reaction? Is there an observation of that reaction without the past? If and when you remember, when the past observes, you maintain the same movement. But when there is an observation without the past, you are looking at that fact. Which is, when you observe from fear from the past, you are using an energy which has always been employed year after year. Right? That's a wasted energy. Is there a new energy that meets this fear without the past? Yes. Exists only, I realize, one sees the truth that time is part of the book. Fear exists when there is inattention, when there is no attention. That gives complete attention. fear doesn't exist. But my brain has been conditioned not to give attention to this reaction. When you have sexual feelings, don't. Right? Whereas fear, if you give total attention, which is not to analyze it, not to rationalize it, not to escape from it, not to observe it from the past, attention means giving your whole energy to look. Right? Then when you do, fear is gone. I can go into it. We can go into it in different ways. We should, on Saturday we'll go into it very much more. Because the mind that has fear is a destructive, aggressive, neurotic mind. Whereas a mind that is utterly psychological is an extraordinary mind. For the last 7 years, whatever work I have attempted to undertake, whether inwardly, psychologically, or externally, in the fields of business, finance, education, family, and so on, has ended in failure. Anything that I have touched has turned to ashes. What is the cause of the state of affairs and what is the remedy? For the last 7 years, whatever work I have attempted to undertake, whether externally, psychologically, or inwardly, psychologically, externally, in the fields of business, finance, education, family, and so on, has ended in failure. Anything that I had touched has turned to ashes. What is the cause of this state of affairs and what is the remedy? Are you interested in this question? Are you interested in this question? Or is it somebody else's question in which you are not interested? You're only interested in your own question. The questioner asks why everything has touched outwardly, inwardly, has turned into ashes. And what is the cause of it and what's the remedy? Very interesting question. If you go into it carefully. We all want to succeed. We worship the God of success or the goddess of success. Politically, religiously, and the field of business, science. We want all to be recognized, rewarded, favored. We do not know if you watch among the scientists infighting that goes on among themselves, among the professors, amongst the business people. My family is better than your family. You know, the whole process of the desire to succeed
Mirtakinex.
What is success? See, I'm asking you a question, you have to reply. Now you can't all of you reply, then too much noise, you understand each other. But you must respond to it. Why is it that we all seek to be successful? What does successful mean? Answer it inwardly for yourself. To fulfill your desire, to have more money, to be famous, to have the Nobel Prize, and if you can't, you are jealous, angry, fighting. So what does success mean? And you are a disciple of some guru, bookworm, law. You want to attain whatever that may mean. You want enlightenment, whatever that may mean. To the same person in the business world, in the psychological world, in the so-called spiritual world, we all want to be successful. To achieve something. Why? Why this tremendous urge in the affluent society and a society that is not so? What is the human urge that propels us, drives us to seek success? Please answer.